Let me tell you about a moment that happens to almost every English learner at some point. You're in a conversation, in a meeting, at a party, on a call, and someone says something, and you understand every single word they used, but you have absolutely no idea what they meant.
Oh, yes, that face. That exact face I'm making right now, that is the face I made the first time someone told me to break a leg before my presentation.
What did you think they meant?
I thought they were being incredibly rude. I looked at my legs, genuinely concerned, and said, "I beg your pardon?" And they laughed, not meanly, but still, and said, "It means good luck." And I thought, why? Why does break a leg mean good luck? Who decided this?
Welcome to idiomatic English, where almost nothing means what it says, and yet somehow native speakers understand each other perfectly.
And if you have ever felt like native speakers are speaking a secret language, a language inside the language, then this episode is specifically, personally, 100% made for you.
I'm Davik. Welcome to Ignite with DP.
And I'm Pavisha, the person who once told her British colleague that something was a piece of cake and then got confused when he looked around for the actual cake.
Was there cake?
There was no cake. There was never any cake. That's the whole problem. Welcome to episode 4 of Speak Real English.
Today, we are counting down the top 10 English phrases that will make you sound like a native speaker. These are not random vocabulary words from a textbook. These are living, breathing phrases that real people use in real conversations every single day. In offices, cafes, text messages, phone calls, and everywhere in between.
And we are going to give you the meaning, the correct way to use it, the situations it fits, and Davik's idea, which I love, the wrong way most learners use it.
Because knowing a phrase is one thing. Knowing how not to misuse it is what takes you from sounding like a learner to sounding like someone who actually grew up with the language.
And before we dive in, we're going to start at number 10 and count down to number 1. And number 1, Davik says it's the single most versatile phrase in the entire English language. You can use it in almost any situation with almost anyone, and it instantly signals that you are a fluent, natural speaker.
Number 1 is worth the wait. Trust me.
Let's go.
Before we get into the countdown, Pavisha, I want to set the scene for our listeners, because there's a story you told me before we started recording today. The dinner party story. Tell them.
Oh no. Okay, fine. So this was about 2 years ago. I was invited to a dinner party by my colleague, Marcus. Very nice man, lovely home. And it was a mixed group, some native English speakers, some non-native English speakers like me. And I was determined. I had been studying English for months by this point, doing exactly the kind of things we talk about on this podcast. And I thought, tonight, I am going to hold my own in this conversation.
Confidence. I like it. Go on.
So the conversation was going really well. We were talking about a TV show. I had watched it. I had opinions. I was contributing. And then Marcus said about a plot twist that came completely out of left field. And I said, with full confidence, yes, I thought it was very out of the field also.
You said out of the field?
I said out of the field with conviction, like I completely knew what I was talking about. And there was this tiny pause around the table, and someone said, very kindly, "Do you mean out of left field?" And I said, yes, absolutely, that's what I said, left field, and then immediately changed the subject.
A masterclass in recovery.
But here's the thing, when I got home that night, I looked up out of left field, and then I looked up hit the nail on the head, and cut to the chase, and sit on the fence, and I fell down this enormous rabbit hole of English phrases and idioms that I had been half hearing for years, and using slightly, humiliatingly wrong for just as long.
And that rabbit hole, incidentally another idiom, is exactly where today's episode lives, because phrases like these, they show up everywhere. And when you use them correctly, naturally, in the right moment, something shifts. You stop sounding like someone translating English in real time. You start sounding like someone who lives in it.
So let's make sure nobody ever says out of the field again, starting with number 10. That said.
P.S. Meaning used to introduce a contrast or a but after agreeing with something. It's a sophisticated connector that native speakers use constantly. Use it like this. The project took longer than expected. That said, the final result was exactly what we wanted. Instead of, however, but, nevertheless, too formal or too blunt in casual speech.
That said as a tiny phrase that does enormous work. It tells your listener, I hear you, I agree with part of this, and here's my perspective. It sounds thoughtful, balanced, and completely natural. It's one of those phrases that makes you sound intelligent without trying to.
Exactly. And the key to using it naturally is the pause. The meeting ran long. That said, pause. We covered everything we needed to. That pause is what makes it land. Number 9. I'm not gonna lie. PS, meaning used to introduce an honest, sometimes vulnerable admission. It signals authenticity, like what I'm about to say is real, not polished. Use it like this. I'm not gonna lie, that presentation made me nervous, but I think it went well. Instead of, to be honest, frankly speaking, both more formal and less warm.
This one changed how people responded to me completely. Before I used it, I would say, to be honest, and it sounded a bit stiff. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like you're letting someone in, like you're being real with them.
That's exactly it. It's vulnerability signaling. It tells the other person, I trust you enough to be unguarded with you right now, and people respond to that warmth instinctively. You hear it in podcasts, in interviews, in casual conversation. It's everywhere once you start listening for it.
And notice, gonna instead of going to. That contraction is part of what makes it sound natural. I am not going to lie sounds like a legal statement. I'm not gonna lie sounds like a human being talking.
Number 8. Fair enough. PS, meaning used to accept someone's reasoning or point even if you don't fully agree. It means I see why you think that and I accept it. Use it like this. A. I'd rather meet on Thursday, I have a full day on Wednesday. B. Fair enough, Thursday works for me. Instead of, I understand your point. Okay, I accept that. All right then. All more stilted and casual conversation. 2 words. Possibly the most socially versatile 2 words in English. Fair enough ends an argument gracefully, accepts a change of plans without drama, and acknowledges someone's point without fully agreeing with it. It keeps things moving. It keeps things warm.
I used to say, I understand your point, and it always felt a bit cold, like I was in a boardroom instead of a conversation. Fair enough is the version that actually sounds like a real person responding to a real person.
There's also a tone tip here. Fair enough delivered with a slight nod and a relaxed tone reads as generous and open-minded. It signals, I'm easy to be around. And that matters more than people realize.
Number 7. It's not rocket science.
PS, meaning used to say something is not as complicated as it might seem, a casual, slightly humorous way to simplify a task. Use it like this. Just follow the 3 steps on the screen. It's not rocket science, I promise. Instead of, it is not very complicated, it's easy, it's simple, all lacking the warmth and humor.
Okay, so this one I used completely wrong for an embarrassingly long time. I once said it is rocket science, meaning it was complicated, not realizing the phrase is always said in the negative. It's not rocket science.
That's actually a really important note. You never say it is rocket science as an idiom. That just means you're working on literal rocket science. The whole meaning lives in the negation.
My colleague looked at me for a second long and said, "Are you working on a rocket?" I was not working on a rocket.
The phrase comes from the idea that rocket science, aerospace engineering, is one of the most complex fields that exists, so saying something isn't rocket science means it doesn't require that level of expertise. It's reassuring, a bit funny, and it immediately lightens the mood around a difficult task.
Number 6. To be fair.
PS, meaning used to add a balanced perspective, especially when defending someone or acknowledging something positive in an otherwise negative situation. Use it like this. The service was slow. To be fair, they were absolutely packed that night. Instead of, however, we must consider, on the other hand, overly formal in everyday speech. To be fair is what I call a fairness signal. It tells the listener, I'm not just venting or complaining, I'm thinking about this from multiple angles. Native speakers reach for this instinctively when they want to come across as reasonable and measured.
And it's particularly useful in professional settings. If you're in a meeting and someone criticizes a project, you can say, to be fair, the timeline we were given was really tight. You're not dismissing the criticism, you're adding context. And you sound like someone who thinks carefully rather than reactively.
Perfect example. To be fair raises the sophistication of your conversation without raising the vocabulary level at all. Simple words, big impact. Number 5. I'll take your word for it. Meaning, used when you choose to believe what someone tells you without verifying it yourself. It signals trust and sometimes polite skepticism with a smile. Use it like this. A. The traffic on the highway is terrible right now. B. I'll take your word for it. I'm going the back road anyway. Instead of, I believe you, okay, I trust you, I accept what you are saying.
This one is so elegant because it does 2 things at once. It says, I believe you, and it subtly says, but I'm not going to personally verify that. There's a tiny hint of playful skepticism in it that makes it feel natural and even a little witty.
Exactly, and the tone matters enormously here. Said with warmth and a slight smile, it's friendly and trusting. Said with a raised eyebrow, it's gently teasing. Same words, completely different conversation depending on delivery. That flexibility is the mark of a really useful phrase.
I started using this one after the 30-day challenge, and I genuinely could not believe how often it came up. Someone would tell me something about traffic or a restaurant or a fact they'd heard, and instead of saying okay like a robot, I'd say, I'll take your word for it. And they'd smile every time. It creates connection.
Number 4, what's the catch? Meaning, used to ask what the hidden problem, cost, or condition is when something seems too good to be true. Use it like this. A, it's a great apartment, spacious, central, really affordable. B, wow, what's the catch? Instead of, what is the hidden problem? Is there a negative aspect? What are you not telling me? This is a phrase that shows a really important cultural fluency, the understanding that when something sounds perfect, native English speakers instinctively look for the trade-off. What's the catch is a kind of healthy, light skepticism that's baked into everyday English conversation.
And the fact that it's a question, short, punchy, direct, is part of what makes it powerful. You're not saying, I don't believe you. You're saying, help me understand the full picture. It's curious, not accusatory.
And you can use it genuinely when something really does seem suspiciously good, or you can use it playfully when your friend offers to do you a favor. I'll do your dishes for you this week. Oh yeah? What's the catch? It keeps conversations light and real.
Number 3, that's not really my thing. This is a soft, polite, non-confrontational way to say you dislike or have no interest in something. It declines without offending. Use it like this. A, do you want to come to the salsa class? B, dancing's not really my thing, but you should go, you'd love it. Instead of, I don't like that, I have no interest in that, that doesn't appeal to me.
This one changed my life. I used to either say, I don't like it, which can sometimes sound harsh, or I would just say yes to things I didn't want to do because I didn't have a gentle way to decline. That's not really my thing is the perfect exit. It's non-judgmental. It says, this is about me, not about you. It doesn't criticize the thing or the person offering it. And the word really softens it even further. Not my thing is direct. Not really my thing has a little cushion in it.
And you can flip it. That's so my thing to show enthusiasm. A podcast about English? That is absolutely my thing. Double the use for one phrase.
Great point. Learning the negative version of a phrase automatically teaches you the positive. That's efficient language learning. Number 2, I can't wrap my head around it. Meaning, used when something is genuinely confusing or hard to understand, even after thinking about it carefully. Use it like this. I've read the instructions 3 times and I still can't wrap my head around how this software works. Instead of, I cannot understand it, it is very confusing to me, I am unable to comprehend. This phrase is beautiful because of the image it creates. Wrapping your head around something, your brain physically trying to stretch around a concept, like wrapping your arms around something too big to hold. It captures that specific feeling of effortful confusion perfectly.
And it's honest without being defeatist. You're not saying, I give up or I'm too stupid for this. You're saying, this is genuinely complex and my brain is working hard on it. There's effort implied. There's dignity in it.
The past tense is also useful. Once I wrapped my head around it, everything made sense. So it works both ways, to describe current confusion and past confusion that you eventually overcame.
And it works for anything. Technology, concepts, emotions, relationships. I said it just last week when someone explained cryptocurrency to me for the 4th time. I honestly cannot wrap my head around it. They laughed and said, neither can I. Instant connection over shared confusion.
Number 1, the most versatile phrase in English. I know what you mean. Meaning, used to show deep understanding and empathy, not just that you heard the words, but that you truly get what the person is experiencing or expressing. Use it like this. A, I worked on that report for 3 days and my manager barely looked at it. B. I know what you mean. That feeling is the worst. Instead of, I understand, I see, I comprehend what you are saying. Here it is, number 1, and I know some people are going to hear this and think, really? That's it? That's the most powerful phrase? But let me tell you why this phrase, used correctly, is an absolute superpower.
Tell them, Divik.
Every human being on this planet has one core emotional need in conversation, to feel understood. Not just heard, but understood. I understand is cognitive. It says your brain processed the information. I know what you mean is emotional. It says your heart recognized the experience. Those are completely different things.
The first time I said, I know what you mean, instead of I understand, and I mean the first time I said it and actually meant it, leaning into it, the conversation changed. The person I was talking to physically relaxed. Their shoulders dropped. They opened up more. 3 words did that.
Because it signals you were not alone in this. I have been in that exact place. I get it. And that signal in English is incredibly powerful. In a job interview, it builds rapport instantly. With a new friend, it creates trust. With a colleague, it makes you someone people want to talk to. It works in every single situation, with every single person at every level of formality.
And the secret to using it well, it's not just the words, it's the pause before you say it. Let the person finish, take 1 second, and then say, I know what you mean. That pause is what turns it from a filler phrase into a genuine human moment.
That's the most important lesson of this entire episode. The words matter, the delivery matters more, and the intention behind the delivery matters most. Okay, we've gone through all 10, and Pavisha, I want to ask you something before we wrap up, because we've done 4 episodes now, and there's a thread running through all of them. The airport story, the job interview, the 30-day challenge, the dinner party. What is the real thing that changes when you go from textbook English to real English? What actually shifts?
Thinks for a moment. Connection. That's the word. Every single story I've told on this podcast, the moments that mattered weren't about impressing someone with my vocabulary. They were about connecting with a person, making them laugh, making them feel understood, making them want to keep talking to me. And phrases like the ones we covered today, like I know what you mean, fair enough, I'm not gonna lie, they're connection tools. They're the things that close the distance between 2 people.
And that is the most important thing anyone learning English needs to understand. Grammar gets you in the room. Vocabulary gives you options. But phrases, the living, breathing, emotionally loaded phrases of real spoken English, those are what make someone feel like you are one of them. Not a foreigner navigating their language, but a real person sharing a real moment.
And you don't need to learn 1,000 phrases. You need to really own 10, 20, 50. Use them so often they stop feeling like things you learned and start feeling like things you just say. Because that transition from I learned this phrase to this is just how I talk, that is fluency.
Put the 10 phrases from today in your phone, on a sticky note, in your journal, and for the next 7 days, use every single one of them at least once in a real conversation. Not in practice, in real life. That's the challenge. Before we go, I want to do something we haven't done before on this podcast. Pavisha, I want to hear you use 3 of today's phrases right now, naturally, in real sentences. Just talk to me.
Oh, okay. All right, so Divik, recording this episode today, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it made me a little emotional because I remember being the person who said out of the field at a dinner party and wanting to disappear. And now I'm sitting here explaining these phrases to people. That's a lot. I can't wrap my head around how fast things can change when you really commit to a language. That said, it didn't happen overnight. It took real work, real embarrassment, and real conversations. But fair enough, it was worth every single bit of it.
Pause. That was perfect. 3 phrases, all completely natural, all completely you. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what this podcast is building towards for every single one of you.
And here is what we want from you right now. In the comments below, right now, while you're listening, write out one sentence using any phrase from today's
That was perfect. 3 phrases, all completely natural, all completely you. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what this podcast is building toward for every single one of you.
And here's what we want from you right now. In the comments below, right now, while you're listening, write out one sentence using any phrase from today's top 10. Just one sentence. I can't wrap my head around why I didn't know these phrases sooner. That's not really my thing, but this podcast definitely is. Whatever feels right, write it, post it, because the moment you use a phrase, even in a comment section, it starts to become yours.
We read every single comment, and we will respond to yours. This community is a real place, and if you use one of today's phrases in the comments, we will be there to tell you how it landed.
If this episode gave you something, a phrase, a perspective, a moment of recognition, please share it. Send it to your study group, your classmates, your best friend who is also learning English. Because the best thing about learning a language is that it's better with company. Be someone's reason for tuning in.
Subscribe to Speak Real English so you catch episode 5, where we are tackling one of the most requested topics from our community, English for the workplace. Job interviews, professional emails, meetings, and the exact phrases that make you sound like a confident, credible professional in English, regardless of your level. If your career needs your English to level up, that episode is non-negotiable.
And one last thing before we go. I want to say something to anyone listening right now who feels like the gap between where they are and where they want to be in English is just too wide, too big, too discouraging to even start closing. It isn't. I promise you it isn't. I was the person at the dinner party saying out of the field. I was the person who froze in the job interview. I was the person on day 11 of the challenge writing in her journal that she wasn't enough. And I am here talking to you in English, feeling completely, fully, joyfully myself. The gap closes one phrase at a time. Start with 10. Start today. Start right now.
From all of us at Speak Real English, keep speaking.
Keep growing.
And never, ever
Say out of the field again.
see you in episode 5.